Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing why the combat shotgun is the most dominant weapon in all of Fortnite, and probably more dominant than the pump shotgun ever was. I'll be the first person to admit that I was totally wrong about the combat shotgun. I bet some of you guys remember that the first few weeks after it was added into the game, the community as a whole viewed it as basically a joke of a weapon. Now that was probably due to some combination of players being mad that it replaced the pump and also not really understanding how to properly use the weapon yet. But as it stands right now, I think the community realizes how wrong we were. I want to make it clear that when I describe the combat as the most dominant weapon, that doesn't necessarily mean most overpowered. What I mean by that is basically this. If you were to ask a bunch of really good or even pro-level Fortnite players to pick one weapon they were guaranteed to get every single game, it's a safe bet that the vast majority of them would say any rarity of the combat shotgun. And throughout the video, we'll get into more detail about why that's the case, and also why it's definitely the correct choice. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so at the beginning of this video, I called the combat shotgun the most dominant weapon in the game, but not the most overpowered weapon in the game. I'm sure at least some of you guys either disagreed with that entirely, or didn't really understand how it would be possible for a weapon to be the most dominant, but not the most overpowered. To understand that, you need to first understand the role that the combat shotgun plays in the current state of Fortnite. As I've stated a few times before on this channel, shotguns have always been and are always going to be the most important weapon category in all of Fortnite. Even average players build to protect themselves almost instantly now. Therefore, to consistently get kills, you're going to need to engage enemies in close range fights and hit high damage shots. Right now, we're in a very unbalanced shotgun meta. I really tried to stay positive as much as possible by attempting to convince myself that the tac shotgun could actually hang with the combat shotgun, but I've now realized that simply isn't the case. And the main reason why that isn't a case is a mix between how well the combat counters the tac and how poorly the tac actually fits the role of what a shotgun should be in Fortnite. The combat shotgun is a weapon that, at least in my opinion, is most powerful at what I'd describe as medium close range, which is maybe roughly 5 to 10 meters away. At that range, you'll still hit for very close to the combat's max damage per shot, while also having enough space to comfortably line up your shots and even ADS a lot of the time. That's so incredibly important because the tac shotgun, on the other hand, is absolutely useless from that medium close range distance. It really doesn't matter what rarity of the tac you have, if you shoot it from anything other than point blank range, good luck hitting for more than maybe 20 damage per shot. Now this really wouldn't even be any kind of a major problem if the tac was really good at point blank range. It would actually make for really interesting 1v1 battles where the player with the combat is trying to create distance between himself and the enemy, while the tac shotgun player is going to do all he can to turn it into a point-blank range fight. But the fact of the matter is, the tac simply isn't good enough even at its ideal range for that to be a reality. Seriously, even when you just absolutely barrel stuff someone with the tac, it seems rare that you hit for anything over 100 or so damage. This means that if you're going against a player with a combat shotgun, he can probably absorb a shot or two even at point blank range, turtle, heal, disengage a little, and then just dominate you from that golden 5 to 10 meter range. I truly believe that even though the combat definitely is a very good weapon, and there's really no debating that, it isn't overpowered. It only seems overpowered because the weapon it's most commonly fighting against is the incredibly underpowered tac shotgun. But as I'm sure most of you guys can remember, this definitely isn't the first time that a shotgun has been considerably better than the only other option in the shotgun weapon category. From the end of Season 7 to the beginning of Season 9, there were only 2 shotguns in Fortnite, the pump and the tac. And just like we're seeing with the combat right now, the pump absolutely dominated the tac in every possible way. But there's one major difference between when it was pump tac and what we're currently seeing now that it's combat tac, and that difference is rarity. Back in Season 7, it wasn't a super huge deal that the tac was so bad, because in the majority of games, you'd be able to find a pump very early. A lot of the times it'd be in the first building you loot, and if not, you'd almost be guaranteed to have one before you left your starting area. So even if you got lucky enough to find a purple or gold pump right off the rip, it'd definitely be nice, but almost everybody else would also have a pump, so the advantage you'd have wouldn't be anything crazy. With the combat shotgun, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware, that simply isn't the case. You'll almost never find a combat shotgun in the first building you land at, and even if you land in populated towns with lots of loot, it's maybe 50-50 if you'll have one when leaving that starting town. I actually saw a post online that gained a ton of popularity a few weeks ago, where someone opened 1,000 normal chests in creative mode and only got something like 11 or 12 total combat shotguns. I think we can all agree on how insane that is. Now, we did get that change in patch 9.21 a few days ago that increased the spawn rate of shotguns, but like I mentioned in that video, the way they worded that change was a little concerning, because they never gave specifics of how much each individual shotgun's spawn rate was actually increased. And based on my experience playing the game since that update, I'm definitely finding more white and green tac shotguns, but the combat still seems to be just as rare as ever. That crazy rarity is absolutely one of the biggest factors that makes the combat shotgun the most dominant weapon in the entire game right now. If you're lucky enough to get one early, you should be able to kill all the players rushing you with white and green tacs relatively easily. And the final thing that makes the combat shotgun so dominant is its insane versatility. The combat shotgun is pretty much the first shotgun in Fortnite history that doesn't necessarily require you to carry an SMG with it. Most shotguns either need an SMG to spray down weak enemies, or in the case of shotguns like the tac and double barrel, you need them for fights where the enemy is slightly out of that shotgun's range. But since the combat has the same effective range as most SMGs and a fast enough fire rate to where there isn't a significant delay between shots, it's almost like a shotgun and an SMG combined into one single weapon. Now, in public matches especially, a lot of players will still prefer the comfort of an SMG with their combat. But in competitive, I've seen some pro-level players running around with some pretty absurd-looking inventories that are only possible because of the versatility of the combat. A 5-slot inventory of combat shotgun, mini shield, slurp juice, shadow bombs, and a rift to go is totally viable, especially in endgame situations. Even when the pump shotgun was at its absolute best, I don't think you could ever get away with using it as your only weapon, because it simply didn't have the range or spray ability. So at the end of the day, I truly believe that if Fortnite were to add either the pump, heavy, or even the double barrel back into the game, the combat would be nowhere near as dominant as it is right now. That's because all 3 of those shotguns would be able to outclass the combat in point-blank range fights relatively easily. The combat definitely isn't horrible at that range, but you gotta remember that the weapon has a super small crosshair, which is a major disadvantage in point-blank range fights, and the gold rarity version of the weapon can only deal a maximum of 137 damage in a single shot. Most rarities of the pump can hit for 200 plus damage, the heavy shotguns can hit for around 190, and with the double barrel you can easily hit 2 120 damage body shots within about 1 second. The combat is just lucky enough to exist in a state of Fortnite where its weaknesses aren't able to be punished by any other weapon. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree with the statement that the combat shotgun is the most dominant weapon in Fortnite? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.